Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Teo here, back with more Ever17. Just, I believe, been told an exciting story about an 800-year-old nun who really liked flowers. And I guess we're gonna see, where we go from there. Oh, not really. It's to be continued. Oh, instead of, the end. Huh? There's more? Well, actually, that's the end for the tale that I know. But there might be more to the tale. What do you mean? Well, nobody actually found her body. Dun dun dun! They just figured she was dead because the bell stopped ringing. Maybe she's still alive in a cave somewhere in Japan, you know? Still waiting for her boyfriend? Stupid, there's no way that story is true. It's just an old fairy tale is all. I don't know. I think she might still be alive somewhere. Yeah, me too. Oh, come on, are you guys serious? Hey, Coco, when was this nun born, anyway? I don't know exactly, but I've heard it was about 1,300 years ago. You see, 1,300 years ago. If she were still alive, she'd be 1,300 years old. Look, you don't have to inform us of the obvious. Let me put it this way. 1,300 years from now means it would be like 700 AD. It means she would have been living since the Nara era, or even before that. That would amaze even Prince Nakano Oe. What are you so worked up about? You're the one who said it was just an old story, Takeshi. Not worked up. You're old enough to know what I'm talking about. Don't break girls' romantic dreams for no good reason. Right, Coco? Yeah. She entered the cave at the age of 700, so that means she waited for her boyfriend another 600 years, right? Oh, but she might still be alive, so that makes it she's waiting, as in the present tense. Or she is waiting, rather. Anyway, when her boyfriend finally arrives at the entrance of the cave, which is overflowing with camellia flowers, they'll finally be reunited. And the extra 600 years of loneliness will be rewarded. Their 1,300 years old love will be fulfilled. Oh, how romantic. Romantic, huh? I think it's more sad than romantic. Yeah, I'm with Coco on this one. Like, it's a really long time to wait. Well, I mean, she's been waiting in this deep dark cave. Just waiting for her boyfriend for the longest time, you know? She's been all alone. So alone and so lonely. But she couldn't die either. But I wish she'd never drank those mermaid's tears. Hey, Coco? What? Do you believe that mermaids actually exist? Geez, there you go again. You're too practical. Well, if mermaids don't exist, then you can forget about the whole story to begin with. That's not necessarily true. Whether mermaids exist or not doesn't have anything to do with whether or not the story is true. Why not? Well, it's obvious that the liquid Gante got from that old man was a longevity potion. I don't care what you say. They could have just named it mermaid tears, right? What I'm trying to say is, the potion didn't actually have to be made from mermaid teardrops. I mean, these candies aren't actual mermaid teardrops. Well, you have a point. So mermaid tears is just only the name for the strange liquid, right? Alright, fine. Let's skip the whole mermaid business. But you know you? Think really hard, will you? Do you honestly think that something like eternal youth exists? I do. You have a basis for that belief? Yes. Okay, show me then. Fine. This is a little off topic, but doesn't this story of Yaobikuni remind you of something else? Talking about the tale of Rip Van Winkle. Rip Van Winkle? Well, the father got invited to a party and got some kind of alcoholic beverage, right? That's just like Rip Van Winkle. So what? What I'm trying to say is this. Rip Van Winkle drank the liquor and became a very old man, right? Yaobikuni drank the mermaid tears and gained that body of perpetual youth that never ages. And that means that... I'm beginning to see what you're trying to say. You are? I'm not. Rip Van Winkle hits the bottle just a little too hard, and when he wakes up 20 years had passed. Just like with that 800-year-old nun. By drinking mermaid tears, she was sent 700 or 800 years into the future. So she didn't actually gain eternal youth, she just slipped through time into the future. Not sure if that's necessarily what we were going for here. So that explains why she stayed 17 years even after 800 years. That explains it? Well, it doesn't. There's no such thing as time travel in real life. Maybe? I don't know yet. Probably not. Hey, wait a second. Don't go jumping to conclusions. Never said a word about time travel, did I? I'm just curious about the similarity between the dwarven spirits and mermaid tears. Dwarven liquor was actually a solution that rapidly accelerates aging. What was in the tears was a solution that slows down aging. Okay, so you have now two fictional stories that support your hypothesis, but I don't think that counts as evidence. This, like, This exchange from you is, like, coming across as kind of weird to me. Because, not, like, actively weird, but, like, sort of weird. Because the you from, Yu's root was, like, this, like, hardline rationalist, right? And this you, which I think I've been hypothesizing for a while is literally a different person, seems to not share that sort of hardline rejection of the supernatural. Which makes sense, right? Because I think the you from Yu's root was like, my mom was super obsessed with finding the Lemurian continent, or blah blah blah, whatever, third eye. So that would sort of line up with this you being that Yu's mom. Depending on, like, how off the deep end this you decides to go in terms of, like, believing in stuff without proper bases. Both of them were handed down from some old guy, and both of them were given at a mysterious gathering. Okay, yes, you're pointing out the similarities again in two fictional stories. So it tells us both dwarven spirits and mermaid tears are possibly made by the same people or by the same civilization. It tells us that. It does! I'm pretty sure you're a crazy person. Well, the Kazlan Coco story might have been part of some ruins of an ancient civilization sunken under the ocean. For example, the civilization of Lemuria. Okay, so yeah. I'm, like, not 100% sure, but I'm, like, 100% sure that this you is the you from Yu's root's mother figure, whether or not it's her biological mother or not. In Lemuria, it's thought that they had science and technology which could control aging, and for some reason, Gonta got invited to the castle. Uh-huh. So, are you satisfied? Satisfied with my, belief that you're a crazy person? Yes. I think that was a pretty random explanation, but that's okay, I guess. I got your point. But you still haven't given me any substantial evidence that eternal youth exists. The point of what you just said was basically this. Rip Van Winkle and the 800-year-old nun's dad must have made contact with the lost civilization of Lemuria. Alright then, let's just suppose this assumption was correct. Even if the civilization of Lemuria actually did exist, nobody knows if they had the technology to control aging, right? There's no way you can prove it. Besides, Lemuria never did and never will exist. Sclater's theory has been proven wrong a long time ago. Who's Sclater? What's Sclater, I guess? A name of an English zoologist. In the mid-19th century, he noticed that the same species of lemur inhabited in Africa, the Madagascar Islands, Asia, and the Indonesian islands. But lemurs can't swim. Well, maybe a little, but certainly not a long distance. Well, then how could he have the same kind of lemurs reside on different islands separated by a massive ocean? Sclater thought, that's it. A long time ago, there must have been a great landmass in the Indian Ocean, and these islands must have been connected as one. But by the mid-20th century, the theory of continental drift had been proven, and Sclater's theory was ignored after that. A long, long time ago, all of the land on the Earth today was formed one big continent, which very, very slowly got broken up, and the continents shifted with the movement of the Earth's crust, or by virtue of plate tectonics, to become the way they are today. To be precise, the land masses are still moving even today, by a few inches or less every year. So the theory of continental drift now known to be fact rather than just theory. So the reason why lemurs exist on different islands can be explained by this theory. So there, you see, there's no such thing as Lemuria. If there's no Lemuria, there couldn't be a Lemurian civilization. Oh really? You don't say. Well, sorry to cut you off when you're just getting started, but the Lemuria I was referring to is in the Pacific Ocean. Why would the Japanese like Gonta go all the way to the Strait of Malacca and to the Indian Ocean? Lemuria was located in the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean? Are you by any chance talking about the continent of Mu? Mu? Doesn't matter what you call it. There used to be an ancient civilization in the Pacific before recorded history. Some people call it Lemuria, others call it Mu. Doesn't really matter, does it? Oh, I'm getting a headache. I guess you're right, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Whether you call it Lemuria or Mu, it never existed, anyway. Why do you have to be so serious? It's so childish. Don't you have any imagination, Takeshi? You're the one who's childish. You're 18, right? Grow up, will you? Get real. An ancient civilization before time, perpetual youth and longevity, Rip Van Winkle, 800-year-old nun, and Santa Claus. None of these exist. Wait, Santa Claus doesn't exist? What? They're all just fairy tales. Not all fairy tales are fiction. Some of them may be real. No way. Okay, yeah, so this is definitely not the same person. There's no way. Yes way! Well, I, for one, believe Rip Van Winkle really existed. Oh, you're so sure, huh? You have any proof? Do you? Of course! Then let's see it. Okay, I'll show you. Rip Van Winkle was... What? Rip Van Winkle was, Hmm? Rip Van Winkle was... Wait, what? Is she a robot? Winkle was... Is she, like, falling asleep? Is she having a seizure? Do we need to get a doctor? All of a sudden, you put her hand on her chest and looked like she was suffering. What's wrong? Hey, are you okay, Nakyu? Uh-huh. I'm okay. It happens all the time. What do you mean all the time? Yu's face had gone pale. Her lips were almost purple, and sweat began to run down her forehead. What? What's happening? She grabbed her chest with her right hand. Ah! She groaned in a low voice and squatted to the floor. She jabbed her left hand into the mountain of tears. The mermaid tears scattered everywhere, and the pen on top flew into the air. I'll be alright. She didn't seem alright at all. Her breathing was fast and her body was stiff and shaking. Her facial color almost seemed like that of a corpse. Wait. Is like related to Tief Blau, maybe? What should we do? Should I leave you here and call for help? No, we don't have any time to lose. The infirmary. I gotta take her to the infirmary. Coco, I'm gonna carry you to the infirmary. So you go ahead and tell everyone what's going on. Okay, I will. I carried you on my back and jumped out of the kiosk. The infirmary was close, so I could get there in less than a minute if I ran. Before I could think, my feet had already started moving. Takeshi. I kept running in silence. The infirmary was near. Hey, Takeshi, you whispered into my ear in a small voice. Rip Van Winkle was... Really... Rip Van Winkle did exist! I screamed out. You're so silly. It's just a fairy tale. Yep. Look, not all fairy tales are fiction. Doesn't mean that Rip Van Winkle actually existed, does it? Besides, even if the tale of Rip Van Winkle was real, that has nothing to do with you, kid. It does too! Talking about whether people could actually travel through time, right? That's what I mean, don't you get it? I'm saying that even if somebody could actually travel in time, that doesn't necessarily mean that you did. How come I can see the future? Don't ask me, how should I know? It has to be because I'm experiencing the same moment in time over and over again. I must have been stuck in Limu in the past also. 3 days passed, and then 4 or 5 days. After that, I must have slipped through time for some reason. Meaning, I must have traveled back in time to the moment I fell into that pond. That must be why I can look into the future. No, I mean, I must be remembering things I've already experienced in the past instead of looking into the future, to be exact. I don't know how, but I'm probably carrying memories of the past. Really? Well, that must be it then. Oh, come on, I'm being serious here. I'm sorry, but I've got far more serious, urgent problems. I've got tons of things to think about. You know what I'm talking about, kid. I don't know what the reason is, but you can predict the future. So what? It's not like it's a bad ability to have. As a matter of fact, I can imagine it would really come in handy. It sounds so simple, but in my case, I don't think it's the ability to see the future. I'm pretty sure I traveled through time. I might even be repeating the same moment in history over and over again. And what's more, I'm pretty sure the amnesia has something to do with time travel. Look, how many times do I have to tell you? Time travel is not possible. And as far as your amnesia, I'm sure you'll regain your memories in time. You're already beginning to remember things, right? I mean, you've actually remembered most everything, haven't you? Not everything. I just remembered things about Sarah. Just childhood memories. I still don't have any memories from the last few years. I have no idea how I got to Limu, why or with whom. I still don't remember anything before May 1st, the day I came to Limu. Where I was, what I was doing, who I am. Huh? Wait a second. You're Mayo's brother, right? You did remember that, don't you? Yeah. So you have to at least know who you are. But I don't. What? How can I explain this? If someone were to ask me, who are you, all I could say is, I'm Sarah Matsunaga's brother. I don't know any other way to answer. And all of a sudden, Oh. You raised your voice and pointed her finger at me. Oh, that reminds me. I keep forgetting to ask you something important. Something important? Name! Your name! Your name, kid! Mayo told you, didn't she? You did ask her, didn't you? You haven't asked her your name? Yeah, I was a little bit confused by that as well. Like, I feel like once you, have the problem of not remembering your name, and then you find out that your sister is in the same building as you, like, feels like it would be a fairly, natural sort of solution to our problem would be to go ask her what your name is. I mean, the conversation might be a little bit awkward, certainly. Like, she might look at you funny, but... You haven't asked her your name? No, I haven't. Yu shook her head, looked up at the ceiling, and chewed on her lips. She clenched her fist, went to shake it into the air, then rethought it and pulled it back down. Yu then proceeded to stomp around in a puddle of water. She crouched down and hopped up swiftly. She took a deep breath. I thought she was going to blow it out, but she continued to take one long breath in. And then she said, "Are you stupid or what?" Her voice was so loud it shook Limu like an earthquake. I was a bit frightened that it would tear the partition walls. That's the first thing you should ask her before anything else! Well, you probably wouldn't understand this, but Sarah and I had so much else to talk about. We had endless things to talk about, and I just didn't have the presence of mind or chance to think about myself. For us, the first priority was to regain the time we had lost. And to be honest, I could care less about my name. Listen, kid, just think about it. It's your own name, aren't you curious to know? Well, now that you brought it up, I'm starting to wonder. When I was talking to Sarah, it didn't even flash through my mind. You sighed with an exaggerated gesture. Well, just put yourself in our position, Yu. Sarah and I saw each other for the first time in 9 years. We were just so happy, caught up in the memories. But on the other hand, we were scared, in pain, and our hearts ached. All these emotions were mixed up and jumbled together and came flooding over us. Sarah and I were overwhelmed just trying to understand one another. Like I said, names didn't seem so important at the time. She just called me brother, and I just wanted to call her Sarah. You understand? No, not at all. You said that and started to walk off. Hey, wait a second, where are you going? I mean, presumably she's gonna go ask Sarah herself. Splashing water, you walked down the long straight corridor. I tagged along beside her and asked her again. Hey, where are you going? Gonna ask Mayo. What? Well, hello, your name, of course, kid. Look, you don't have to do that. Huh? Why not? What you've been saying doesn't make sense. Don't you want to regain your full memory? Don't you want to know who you are? Of course I do, but... Well then, instead of talking about stupid, outrageous things like seeing the future or time travel, don't you think it would just be faster to ask Mayo? I thought back briefly to the sight of myself in the mirror. I'd been so confused at the time because my face didn't look like my face. If the same thing happened when Sarah told me my name, I was afraid that it might feel like my name wasn't really my name and ended up all confused again. To tell the truth, it was a bit scary. Besides, is a name really all that important? What? Look, names are just a way people give themselves to make identifying one another more convenient. Just for convenience. Well, living without a name certainly has its own challenges. I don't think a name is an absolute necessity. I mean, sure, but you have a perfectly good one. Probably. I mean, maybe it's stupid, and maybe you're better off not knowing it, but I feel like the odds there are pretty slim. Take dolphins. They're highly intelligent creatures, but they don't go around calling one another by name. I mean, you don't know that. Maybe dolphins have, perfectly good names that they call each other in dolphin language. And they seem to be getting along just fine. They seem to be able to identify one dolphin from the others, too. They know which one is a son, which one is a wife, and the difference between a gray whale and a killer whale. They don't have names, yet they can recognize things correctly. And this is just a speculation, but they seem to recognize individual identities. A dolphin seems to have its own sense of self, separate from that of the dolphin swimming next to it, and it's aware that it's a separate entity. They don't have to depend on names to recognize all these things. My name is James, this one next to me is Ling Ling, and the one chasing after a fish is Yumemi. I don't think they do that. It may sound kind of cocky, but sometimes I feel humans depend on names too much. If one day this girl you've been knowing as Ling Ling tells you, oh, by the way, my name is Lang Lang, wouldn't that throw you off? It'd cause confusion. You might think, you know, Ling Ling and Lang Lang are really similar, but they're probably just two different people. It seems stupid to get confused just because of a name. Okay, now they're like picking fun at me. Like, they're actually just making fun of me right now. Like, because I got super hung up on the difference between the two used names. Like, this is pretty pointed jabbing at the reader. I'm not sure if I should be offended or not. Meaning people value, trust, and depend on names, more than the actual individual differences. I bet dolphins don't think like that. Because to begin with, they don't have names to identify individuals. I realized that for the first time once I lost my name. I noticed that a name really isn't all that important. You didn't stop walking. I couldn't tell whether she was listening to me or not, because she didn't respond to me at all. Hey, are you listening to me? As we turned around a corner, I asked her. Yeah, I'm listening, I'm listening. I've been thinking about what you were just saying. I feel like I understand what you mean. You know, I've had a complex about my name for a long time, and I've actually thought quite a lot about this issue. Complex? Yeah? You don't like your own name, you? Of course I don't! Why? I'm embarrassed about it. People introduce themselves to one another when they meet, right? Every time a new year at school would start, I would just cringe. Oh. I murmured. I remember you said something about your real name being much longer, right? Yeah. Well, was that have something to do with the fact that you don't like your name? Something to do with it. That is why I don't like it. You stopped walking. She had a bitter smile on her face. You want to know? What? I still haven't told you my full name yet. I guess. Will you promise that you won't laugh? Sure. Okay, I'll tell you. My name is Tanaka Yubisei Akikana. Wait, yeah, Aki. So this is fall. We fall. What? It means gentle, beautiful, pure, autumn, fragrant green blossom. What? Yubisei Akikana? All of a sudden, it was as if I felt a heavy thud in the bottom of my heart. A strange feeling started to take over my body. A sense of something out of place. Wow, that's super funny. The kid got, like, all worked up because he was like, oh, I don't want to find out my name because it might not sound like my name. And then all of a sudden, like, Yu tells him her name, and he's like, wait, that's not your name! Ah! What a troubled life this young man leads. A sense of something out of place. That's it, that's right! I must have known Yu's real name. Wait, but I've never heard it from you directly. What's going on? It's just like the situation with Sarah. I already knew Yu's real name from before. Yu's real name was... Your real name is... Yubisei Harukana. What? You said it wrong, didn't you? You actually meant to say Harukana, right? Look, I don't think I'd say my own name incorrectly. Well, Haru or Aki, either one is fine with me. But on the birth certificate it says Aki. No! What? Your full name has to be Yubisei Harukana. It's not Aki. What are you laughing about? This isn't funny at all. You don't remember your own name? Yeah, that just may be it. My real name is, was it Ling Ling? No, wait, maybe it was Lang Lang. Oh, that's funny. Kid's doing the exact thing he was just, like, railing on 2 minutes ago. Kid, listen up. My name is Yubisei Akikana. It's been that way since I was born, and it will be that way as long as I live. You got it? It's neither Haru, or Natsu, or Fuyu, but Aki. You know why? I was born 18 years and 7 months ago. Little more than 7 months to be exact. My birthday is September 22nd. I was born in Japan. I wasn't born in the southern hemisphere. Let's see. Was September spring in Japan? No, it's autumn, isn't it? So my name is Akikana. Aki, as in autumn. You got that? I was already starting to lose my sense of reality. A bottomless fear crept up from the pit of my stomach and threatened to leap out of my throat. My head started to ache. And then... Brother! Nakyu! I glanced as I put my head on my temple. Splashing water in all directions, Sarah came toward us. Good timing. Good timing. Sarah stood in front of us, tilting her head quizzically. Actually, I had a question for you, Mayo. What is it? Kid's name. Will you tell me his real name? You put her hand over my shoulder. I knew her hand was touching my shoulder, but I couldn't feel it. I was dizzy and about to faint. Swear to God, if it, like, switches protagonists right as Sarah's about to tell us, I'm gonna be, like, a little bit upset. I thought to myself, this'll probably be a lot easier if I just faint. But both my feet stood soundly on the floor, and I braced myself. I looked at Sarah. Sarah's mouth opened like an empty hollow. Wow, that's even worse. I'm being trolled right now. The writers are trolling me. Why do you do this to me? Like, there are two possibilities, right? Like, either the kid's name is, like, deeply plot relevant and telling me now would ruin a mystery, like, later down the line. In which case, like, this mechanic here is stupid and, like, a cop-out. Or it's not relevant and they're just fucking with me. Like, I'm not sure which one I would be more upset by. Like, either lazy writing by, like, the kid not being able to hear his own bloody name, or the writers actively trolling me. Like, one way or the other, I'm a little bit ticked off right now. I couldn't hear her voice. Of course you couldn't. I saw Sarah's lips were moving, but I couldn't hear her voice for some reason. couldn't hear Yu's voice either. All I could hear was just the sound of my blood flowing through my ears. In that moment, my sight crashed into pieces. The scenery before me was stripped of all color. A voice. A voice. A voice? I could hear a voice from afar. From faraway darkness. Somebody whispering to me. Who are you? Who am I? Who am I? Hakuto. Your name is Hakuto. Wait. Okay, so I was just being trolled. I guess that's the lesser of two evils. It's not lazy writing, it's just the writers, like, giving me a fat middle finger. They're like, ha, you wanted to find out his name, Hakuto, huh? That's what he's called. Now that you mention it, he does kind of look like a Hakuto to me. A Hokuto. Never mind, I was misreading it. Hokuto. That is my name? That's right, brother. Hokuto. 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 I repeated it aloud over and over again. Hokuto. 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 My hunch had been right. I'd never heard the name Hokuto before. Hokuto. That couldn't possibly be my name. It didn't feel real to me at all. But Sarah wouldn't lie to me. So I figured Hokuto must be my name. Hokuto. 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 Name. 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 Yu's name was Yubisei Akikana. My name is Hokuto. There was too much to think about. I felt I was close to my mental limit. I was dizzy. My head ached. I looked at my palm. I had 5 fingers. Everything seemed out of place to me. I still couldn't regain the real me. Is this me who's looking at my palm? Or is it somebody that isn't me? Is Hokuto really me? Or is it me who's not Hokuto? Hokuto. 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 Is it really? Is that really his name? Tsugumi slightly nodded her head. Her face was all red. So you're Chami, because you're charming. It's cute. What a good name. How cute. That was what I thought. I did my best to stifle my laughter. Oh, come on, you promised not to laugh. Not laughing! I tried to keep a straight face, but the corners of my mouth started to twitch. I could just imagine Tsugumi baby talking to it. Chami poo, it's din din time. Ah, that's why I didn't want to tell you. Sullen, Tsugumi was red-faced, but she held out the bath towel she had behind her back. Oh, thanks. I took the towel and wiped myself down. I breathed deeply, feeling reborn as I glanced at Tsugumi's profile. She was playing with the hamster in her hand, and her cheeks were bright. She looked so happy. It was the first time I'd ever seen her smile like she meant it. Takeshi, thank you. Tsugumi said it in a whisper without looking at my face. I headed towards the A area with Tsugumi. Since we were in the area with the generator room, we had to take one of the egg-like elevators to get back. I felt excited, maybe from the feeling of accomplishment of rescuing Chami, but my feet were heavy, my body just couldn't keep up. I was exhausted. 5 hours earlier, I'd been running with you on my back, who had been suffering from something all of a sudden. And with this to rescue Chami, I swam over 300 feet from underwater. Is it really just fatigue? It's heaviness? I feel a bit feverish, too. I have a slight headache. Maybe I caught a cold. What's wrong? Tsugumi must have noticed my slow steps, and looking at my face, worried. I'm just tired. You alright? Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired is all. Okay. Tsugumi was worried about me. It was a funny feeling. By the way, how about yourself? Huh? Your leg. You know, your injury. Tsugumi was dragging her right foot. I'm alright. Are you really? The wound didn't open up or anything, did it? The wound didn't open up or anything, did it? You wanna see? Tsugumi stopped walking. She quickly flipped up her skirt with her hands. Cut it out! In shock, I slapped Tsugumi's hand and stopped her. Tsugumi chuckled gleefully. My feet felt much lighter all of a sudden. As for you, it turned out she wasn't as bad as I thought. After resting for about an hour in the infirmary, you regained a surprising amount of her strength. Why'd you start suffering like that all of a sudden? I asked you, but she changed the subject and didn't tell me anything. I also asked Sora, but her answer was the same. Sora must have known something, since she had examined you with the repaired LMRI. That thought still bothered me. Maybe she's pregnant. It was still such that only one person at a time could ride the egg. Tsugumi went up first. I rode up shortly after. The egg zipped upward, quickly arriving at its white stalk. As soon as I got there, Tsugumi was waiting for me. Chami was sitting on her hand. Tsugumi stuck out both of her arms to the side. Chami walked from one hand to the other, crossing Tsugumi's arms. Tsugumi had such a happy smile on her face. But I couldn't help from smiling too. For no particular reason, Tsugumi and I stared at each other for a while. You wanna try? Saying so, Tsugumi put Chami on my shoulder. I stretched out my arms, and suddenly Chami charged onto my arms. It tickled so much that I couldn't help but wriggle my body. Chami looked hesitant when he got to the end, which was the tip of my hand. I held Chami gently in my palm and looked at him closely. Chami, huh? Are you Chami? Well, are you? Come on, answer me. Of course, Chami didn't answer. Maybe he was frightened I would eat him. Yeah, he sure is charming. He's Chami because he's so darn charming. Curious, I decided to ask Tsugumi a question. Why are you called Tsugumi? Huh? Your name, I mean. Does it come from the Chinese character for the bird, the redwing? The bird. If I remember correctly, they migrate, right? Oh, redwings? Not to disappoint you, but... Nope, my name has nothing to do with birds. And what does your name mean? Asked Tsugumi. As I asked Tsugumi, I placed Chami back into her hand. Tsugumi picked up Chami and told me, Satellite of the Earth and where we are at. Huh? What's the one satellite this Earth has? The moon? The moon? And where are we right now? Limu. What's all around us here at Limu? Around us the ocean? Yup. In Japanese you write it moon and then ocean, and read it Tsugumi. Oh, I see. Come to think of it, I didn't know which Chinese characters your name used. Moon and ocean, huh? It's a really pretty name. Tsugumi's cheeks turned pink. And then, Daddy! Mommy! What? Please no, not this again. Ow, ow, ow! Coco and Pee-Pee came rushing in. I told you not to call me Daddy. I told you not to call me Mommy. What? Huh? Tsugumi and I looked at each other. Tsugumi's been calling you Mommy, Coco's been calling you Mommy, Tsugumi? And she's calling you Daddy, Takeshi? She keeps doing it no matter what I say. Hey Daddy, Mommy, let's play! Ow! After a while, Tsugumi and I had begged Coco not to call us Daddy or Mommy. It took us about 3 hours to finally convince her. Wait, you're successful? Wow. I was, not expecting you to be. I'm impressed. It was 3 times more exhausting to convince Coco than to dash with you on my back and swim underwater 102 meters. By the way, Coco's reason for calling Tsugumi Mommy was, a girl who doesn't have a mommy can call somebody who reminds her of her mommy. It's written in the, Knuckle tablet, wasn't it? What is that? So she said. Needless to say, Coco already had a real mother. After finally convincing Coco, I went to see you. Even before I had gone to rescue Chami, you had seemed to be recovering your strength. But the way she looked when she had first started feeling pain didn't seem normal. I was still concerned about her even though she looked better. So I decided to make sure you was alright. You told me I could find you in the security office. I entered into the room. You was sitting in front of the console, staring blankly at the screen. I called out a greeting as I sat down in the seat next to her. You grabbed a coffee cup, took a big gulp, and said, Thank you. Huh? I didn't have a chance to say it earlier, right? So, thank you. Yu's eyes were fixed on the display. Are you talking about when I carried you to the infirmary earlier? Yeah. You don't have to thank me. Just want to ask you a question. What caused it anyway? Cause? What are you talking about? You still wouldn't look at me. A normal, healthy person wouldn't just suddenly clutch their chest in pain, you know? And besides, you said it happens all the time. What is that all about? When I asked, she turned the seat halfway and stood up. Hey Takeshi, you remember why I came to Limu? You changed the subject all of a sudden. I didn't understand why she was asking the question, but I answered her anyway. Yeah, I do. You came to get a part-time job for the holidays. Well, it's just an excuse to search for your father who's been missing for 17 years, right? Remember the story you told me in front of the merry-go-round the first day? Oh, interesting. I had forgotten that this Yu is, like, also looking for her dad, which doesn't make sense. So it doesn't necessarily make sense for this Yu to be the mom in the other route. So I guess I'm back on the, pure bisection theory? I can't remember. Has Yu ever gotten, like, meaningfully injured? I guess she contracts, TB at the end of Takeshi's story arcs. But maybe... They did say that there was, like, a limit to how many times you could like, split with Cure, right? They were like, we can split the mouse, like, 8 times, or maybe even 16. But there is a limit, right? So presumably the regenerative capabilities diminish the more times you split. So maybe this Yu is, like, the end of, like, a series of several splits. So maybe she's, like, slightly increased regenerative powers, but not, like, on the level of somebody who has Cure originally. Assuming, of course, that the entire theory about cutting people in half is true, which is not at all a given. Like, I still don't have great evidence supporting that theory. I could just be pulling it out of my ass. But, like, maybe that has something to do with, like, her injury just now. Like, maybe if you cut them in half too many times, like, their internals get messed up. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I remember the story that you told me in front of the merry-go-round the first day. My mom seems to think my dad's already dead. But you know, I believe. I know that my dad's still alive somewhere. He's gotta be. He just went missing. They never found his body. I just had to find out. If he was alive or dead. If he's alive, of course I want to see him. And if he's dead, I want to find some kind of evidence. Otherwise I won't give up. I just can't accept it. Just like that time, I didn't know what to say to her. The story of the 800-year-old nun came to my mind. You believe that the 800-year-old nun actually existed. How in the story, the sound of the bell had stopped one day, but nobody actually found her body. Also, amusingly, or interestingly, we now have sort of proof from the person in question that the season name in Yu's real name is related to when she was born. So, how do I make use of that information for figuring out what's going on with this Yu? Because, this Yu is a spring, right? So, what can I infer from that? Very little? Yeah, I don't know what I can infer from that at all. Like, they're like twins, but she was born in the southern hemisphere? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Maybe, like, the splitting process took place during the spring, assuming that that theory holds water. I don't know. How in the story, the sound of the bell had stopped one day, but nobody actually found her body. When I came to think of it then, I realized that was probably Yu's wish. She's probably mixing her feelings about her father's situation with the story of the nun. It occurred to me that way. And so that's what I was researching just now. And, did you find anything? Nothing. I can't figure out the password, and I gave up. I looked at the monitor. An authentication window was being displayed. The cursor was flashing without a sound. I see. Biting her lip, Yu glanced down dejectedly. She was wrapped in a hazy blue light from the display. I picked up the cup from the table and sipped some of Yu's leftover coffee. It was cold. It's alright. I know that you'll, see him again. I looked down into the cup. The black coffee hid the bottom of the cup from my view. Thank you. But, I don't think I'll ever see him again. What? I looked up in surprise. Yu was forcing herself to smile. She squinted her eyes and looked off into the distance. I came here because I thought I wanted to find out about my dad, but I realized actually that wasn't it at all. I'm running out of time. I've gone way past my limit. So that's why. Before the time comes, I had to know. The truth. Oh, so this Yu is like a terminal disease? That's what was going on earlier? She's running out of time. She doesn't think that she'll ever see him again? It happens all the time. She'd been suffering with her hand on her chest. No, it can't be. I didn't even want to think about it. Closing my eyes, I took a deep breath and tried to shake bad thoughts from my mind. Hey, Yu. What do you mean by that? Yu crossed her arms behind her back and started walking slowly away, head down. She stopped in front of the wall, turned around and walked back in front of me. The sound of her shoes echoed on the hard floor. The cursor silently flashing on the display. The cold coffee in my hand. I looked into the cup again. The glossy liquid was rippling with small waves. I can't tell you. The sound of her shoes stopped abruptly. Why? She raised her face quietly and said, If I start telling you now, I might talk about things I don't want to talk about. But, Takeshi, Yu interrupted my words and went on. Have you ever done something wrong or sinned, Takeshi? Sinned? Yeah. A massive sin. I don't care whether you believe in God or not. I'm asking you if you ever committed a sin that was morally wrong and there was nothing you could do to mend it. Wow. That's a heavy question. I'm, not 100% certain how I want to answer that one yet. Let's go ahead and say yes. Well, guess I might have. What have you done? Well, different things, I guess. Things you can't tell me. I don't really want to talk about it, to be honest. think that sins are something you carry through life by yourself. Seems cowardly to me to unburden it onto someone else and beg for pity and compassion. I feel the same way. That's why I can't tell you. If I tell you now, it would just be an excuse. I crossed a line that should have never been crossed. I turned my back on God. It's like an original sin to me. I could never escape from it, and I don't intend to. As long as I live. Yes, as long as I live, I must carry this sin with me. But you know what? You might think I'm horrible, but I don't regret anything. It's probably better this way. Because this way I'm the only one who sinned. That means I'm the only one who'll be punished. She has no sin to carry on. She? Who are you talking about? About myself. This yourself, or like... Autumn yourself? My other self. Interesting? Your other self. Are you telling me you have split personality? You didn't say anything and took the cup from my hand, so you knows what's going on? What? How does she know? I don't know what's going on. You didn't say anything and took the cup from my hand. She sipped the cold coffee. For some reason, you suddenly tilted the cup. The black liquid, overtaken by the force of gravity, went splashing to the floor. You? Yu's eyes were fixed on me. There was no expression on her face. All the emotion had gone from her face, and I couldn't read what she was thinking. Her eyes were dull, dark, and without a spark, like a pair of ash-gray glass beads. Eventually, Yu whispered. She is my sister. Your sister? Yes. And at the same time, she is me. She and I are twins, you see. She's my twin sister. Interesting. Then why do you have names corresponding to different parts of the year? And also, like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what the fuck is going on? I'm super confused. And, like, this is not helping me. Like, assuming that these two Yus are the two twins in, like, the Yu in Takeshi's timeline and the Yu in the kid's timeline are the twins in question. Like, how does that work? Like, that's about where I'm at right now. Because, like, does that mean the two arcs are happening simultaneously, or like, do we still have this like 3-year time difference between the two, or like, I still have no idea how the two sets of, or like the two timelines interact with each other. Like, you would think that that information would be like super helpful, but it was like the opposite of helpful. I now have no idea what's going on. Fraternal twins? You yelped right next to my ear. Why are you so surprised about it? Didn't I tell you? Well, yeah, I'd heard that you and Mayo were twins, but nothing about fraternal or identical or anything like that. Oh, but... I found myself laughing in spite of myself. Hmm? You cocked her head. Of course we're fraternal twins. I mean, I'm a guy and Sarah's a girl. So? Monozygotic is when one egg is fertilized and the embryo splits into two. So both twins have the exact same genetic makeup. That's why they're called identical, because they look the same. And of course they're the same gender. So for identical twins, you can't have anything other than 2 girls or 2 boys. But dizygotic, on the other hand, is when 2 different eggs are fertilized by different sperm. So they're 2 separate entities from the beginning, each with a separate genetic makeup. That way they may or may not have the same gender. They might not even look much alike. They're basically just they're basically just like 2 other siblings. So they're more like siblings who happen to be in their mother's body and get born at the same time. I get it. So, if a boy and a girl are twins, they have to be fraternal, not identical? Exactly. Huh. So, what were we talking about again? You forgot? Well... It started when you said something like, so Mayo and you are twins, but you aren't any good at computers like Mayo is. In fact, you've got absolutely no aptitude for them. Why is that? And then I said, because we're fraternal twins, I mean, also because, like, aptitude for computers is sort of, learned. I assume there is not a gigantic genetic component there. Like, that's more of a product of your environment than anything else? Oh, right, I remember now. You flail her limbs around on the top of the ruins. That's right. You and I were on top of the Lemurian ruins. So after all that, you do get it? Get what? She paused in her flailing. The reason I'm not good at computers. Oh, it's like this, right? Because you and Mayo are as different from one another as any other siblings. Unlike identical twins, your genetic strengths, characters, or whatever are completely different. Right. I'd say that our infrared vision is the only inherited trait that we even share. Aside from that, I don't think we're very much alike. So, what were we talking about before then? I sighed and started explaining. But before that, I need to explain what you and I were doing there. It went back to that afternoon, before I knew my real name. Sora came out with some information rather abruptly. Yoichi Tanaka passed away 17 years ago. Yukie Tanaka passed away 15 years ago as well. Yoichi was Yu's father, and Yukie was her mother. Both of Yu's parents had passed away. It was unfortunately a fact that was true. There was proof, included dated mail and other files. I had seen them with my own eyes. But Yu still wasn't convinced. In her heart, she still believed that her father was alive. Of course, regarding her mother, she was even more vehement. But my mother works at Limu. We were living together until right before all of this happened. There's no way she died 15 years ago. It was hard to know what to say, but I said this. Maybe she wasn't your real mother. Wow, real tactful. I mean, useful, but not particularly tactful. Meaning she might not even be Yukie. Yu was shaking her head back and forth as if to say, impossible. After a while, Yu spoke as if in a dream. If only I could hack into there. Then I could find out details, get the whole story. But there she was pointing at was Lem's high-security data. All afternoon into the night, she tried to hack her way in, but kept getting rejected at the confirmation point. She knew the password. An empty false sky, a single cuckoo calls out, brings a chill to me. She kept trying different variations, caps, lowercase, different fonts, Latin, German. She enlisted Sora and Sarah's help, and they tried every possibility they can think of, but all to no avail. Lem had built a high, impenetrable castle, and Yu was turned back again and again right at the gates. She was stricken with frustration and grief. Finally, exhausted and at a loss, she found her way over to the Lemurian ruins. By the time I spotted her, she had climbed all the way to the top. I sat down beside her. Neither of us spoke. But from time to time, Yu would let out something like a sigh. Yu would let out a sigh like she had thought of something. Time passed slowly. Listen, kid, you get premonitions, right? After about the 153rd sigh, Yu suddenly came out with this question. Can you see anything about my parents? Well, you know, premonitions aren't the same as seeing into the past. And you're talking about 15 and 17 years ago. When I was only 1 or not even born yet. Either way, there's no way I can look that far into the past. You are totally useless. Even when Sora and Maya were killing themselves helping me, you were just sitting there spacing out. Hey, actually, you and Maya are twins, right? But you're not good with computers the way she is. In fact, you don't even have any aptitude with them at all. Why is that? That's when I answered. I said because we're fraternal twins. Oh, banana. I remember now, cow. Remember Ember, cow now. What? Is she okay? Is she having a stroke or something? Cow, now I remember, Ember. You appear to be malfunctioning. The harsh reality of things must have been too cruel for her to bear. When Sora first told her, you went hysterical, almost crazy, and then burst into into a sobbing fit like a child. Maybe she had cried herself out, because since then she seemed much calmer. But now, a pineapple? She was in bad shape. You, are you okay? Because, yeah, no, she definitely seems like she's having a stroke to me. What's that? Maybe you're a little psychologically, strained? No way! I'm fine! I'm starting over from here. No point in moping, right? Enough about me. How about you, Hokuton? Hokuton? Your name's Hokuto, right? So, Hokuton. Cut it out. Don't call me that. Why not? I still can't think of myself as a Hokuto. If I was walking down the street and somebody called out Hokuto, I wouldn't turn around. In fact, I don't think I could. It wouldn't seem like they were calling out to me. Well, even if that's what you think, that's just too bad. Your name is Hokuto until you die, and you're just gonna have to live with that. But, if nothing else, I don't want you guys here to call me Hokuto. I'm used to being called Kid, and you guys are used to it too, right? You can't just switch in the middle like that. Well, I suppose, but still. You really want to stay Kid? Yeah, that's fine. I told her how I felt. You really hate Hokuto that much? Listen, for the millionth time, I just don't think Hokuto is my name. It's got nothing to do with liking or disliking the name. Really. Look, I said this when we were talking about Ling Ling and Lang Lang, right? But I really don't care what my name is. I'm not fussy, and I'm certainly not attached to it. But you can't not care at all. Whether you like it or not, a name is like a billboard for who you are. If you're gonna live in society, you'll need a name eventually. I mean, anytime you make a contract, or apply for something, or take an exam, or get arrested. Whatever you say, your name is the most important way to verify who you are. Names are like ID numbers for people. Identification. The word just slipped out. And then... What? What did you just say? You grabbed the back of my head and pulled my face towards hers. Whoa, what? Just then. Just now. Now. Kid, what did you just say? I didn't say anything. I just repeated back what you were saying. You leveled a determined glare at me. She raised my finger and twirled it like a magic wand. She breathed in through her nose. I waited for her to breathe out, but she kept breathing in. And in! I covered my ears. She grabbed my hands and pulled them away from my ears. And then, with all the air she had just sucked in, she let loose right next to me. I've got it! She grinned loosely. I just kept blinking at her. And then, I got it! You see, I sincerely love you! Smooch! All of a sudden, out of the blue and with no warning, she kissed my cheek. A perfect hit. I was a little giddy. Well, hurry up, ask me. Ask? Come on, ask me. Hey, you, what did you figure out? I did as I was told. Hey, you, what did you figure out? Funny you should ask, kid. You see, you know the reason we couldn't get past the confirmation on Lemma? I figured it out. Huh? All this time we thought we had the password wrong, right? But that wasn't it. The password's probably fine. An empty false sky, single cuckoo calls out, bring chills to me. What do you mean? So, it's gotta be this. It wasn't the password we had wrong, it was the username. Username? Yep. A name is like an identification number for a person, and it's what confirms who you are. So if we had the name wrong, it wouldn't matter how perfectly we put the password in. Access denied, invalid name or password. I'd seen the message umpteen times. If you were right, and the mother I knew wasn't really my mother, it would mean that her real name wasn't Yukie Tanaka. Which would mean, if you just knew her real name, you could clear Lemma's confirmation? Exactly! You tapped my forehead. But how will you figure out her real name? Well, Sora ought to know, right? Before I could say Sora, you had grabbed my arms. A second later, Aye! She jumped down off the ruins with a great cry. Pulled off balance, I flew clumsily through the air. Bam! I nearly toppled onto my head, but managed to right myself like a cat and landed safely. My own excellent reflexes impressed me. As for you, she was sprawled on her belly in a puddle, arms and legs spread awkwardly. You okay? When I called her name, you hopped up. Water dripped from her hair. She was soaked from head to toe. Well, don't just stand there, let's go! She spoke calmly. Flinging off water, she headed toward the exit. From the back, she looked completely dry. I stood for a minute in front of the gates of the Lemurian ruins, just thinking. If you were right, and the mother I know isn't really my mother, it means her real name isn't Yukie Tanaka. So what was her name, then? Name. Yu's real name was Yubisei Akikana. Yubisei Akikana. Aki meaning autumn. Autumn. The empty false sky. A single cuckoo calls out, brings a chill to me. I broke it down by character. Empty, fall, sky, single, cuckoo calling, brings, chill. A jumble of bits and illogical fragments. I tried to form them into a coherent pattern, but they slipped away. I couldn't grasp them. I couldn't help but feel that I had brushed up against another premonition, or at least an intuition. It was a haiku, 17 syllables. I muttered it out loud. The empty false sky, a single cuckoo calls out, brings a chill to me. The empty false sky, a single cuckoo calls out, brings a chill to me. It was then, someone was standing in the darkness beyond the entrance to the ruins. A human figure, a female. Her body was giving off heat, glowing redder than red. I couldn't see her face. I could just see that she was there. She was holding her breath in darkness, staring at me. Who are you? She didn't answer. She didn't come any closer, but she didn't seem like she was going to run. Is this Coco? I kind of hope this is Coco, despite, how confusing that would be. The figure bathed in light looked like she might be a ghost. A ghost? A phantom girl? Hokuto. I heard a tiny voice. Hokuto. My name. Was she calling to me? Hokuto. Fearfully, I went a little closer. The darkness grew deeper. And at the same time, the light she gave off grew more brilliant. Her outline sprang into view. It had to be. She was the ghost I had seen. The empty false sky, Hokuto is calling out, brings a chill to me. And on that exciting and confusing note, I'll be closing the video for the day. Pleasure reading to all of you, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Peace.